I was told that if I apply for an apartment and my application's accepted, I'm gonna lose my deposit if I don't sign the lease. A lot of places are gonna ask you to put down a non-refundable deposit along with your application. A good way to protect yourself in this situation is to make sure that your application clearly outlines the conditions under which you're applying. If you want a rent reduction, make sure that's written on there. If you need new appliances or anything else done to the apartment, make sure that's written on there as well. That way, your application can't be approved unless you get what you want. I found an apartment that I like, but the building charges a $500 elevator fee? Is this worth it? It's gonna depend on how often you have to pay the elevator fee, and when you add this fee to your rent, is the rent the same as what you'd get in another building that also has an elevator? If you do your research, you'll be able to figure this one out. Are no-fee apartments just a marketing ruse and a scam? If an apartment's listed as no fee, it's because the property owner is paying the fee for the agent who's helping you find an apartment. Or it's because the property owner's listing it themselves. That being said, always make sure that you have it in writing that you're not responsible for paying an agent's commission if it's your goal to rent something that's no fee. I found an apartment I love. The rent is $2,100 with 3 months free. $1,595 is the net effective rent for my lease. I'm afraid the rent's gonna go up next year. What do I do? If this apartment was marketed to you as having a net rent that you could afford and a gross rent that you can't, the landlord or agency would be an absolute fool to think that you're suddenly gonna be able to afford way more rent next year. And a lot of landlords will give you free months in exchange for renewing, which is probably something you should have a conversation with them about before you sign your lease. That way you'll know if getting into this is a good idea in the first place. My lease is up for renewal in April, and last year the landlord said that he would raise the rent if we re-signed. He can say whatever he wants, but he can't change what the market around his apartment is doing. Do your research, know the market, and tell him what price you're willing to pay, and if he doesn't agree, walk away. I want to sign a 6-month lease. Should I bring this up to my agent before I apply or after? If you're looking at something really nice and it's from a massive management company and they're not making it clear that a 6-month is okay up front, it's probably a good idea to bring that up before you apply. But on the other hand, if you're renting an apartment from a small mom and pop landlord that just has like a couple of available units, they're gonna be much more flexible, and you might be able to get what you want by applying for the apartment, getting approved, which is gonna give you some leverage, and then telling them that you would rather have a 6-month lease. I found a 1-bedroom on Craigslist in Brooklyn for $1,000. I looked the apartment up on StreetEasy and the price was way higher. Am I being scammed? Probably. Pretty much everything on Craigslist is a scam. I would avoid Craigslist because if it's too good to be true, it's probably on Craigslist and it's probably fake. If an apartment's listed at $2,500 and I want to negotiate it before I commit, when do I do this? When you submit your application and qualifying documents, make it clear at that moment that you're putting in an offer on the rent and that that's the only way you're going to sign the lease. And the reason for this is after the agent and the landlord see that you're qualified to rent the place, they're going to take you much more seriously than if your first text message or email to them through a site like StreetEasy tells them that you want to make an offer on a place that you haven't seen yet. By applying, you build up some leverage, which you can use to help get you what you want. How do I see as many apartments as possible in a weekend if I'm moving to the city? I've only got a limited amount of time to look for a place. Since you've got to travel from apartment to apartment to apartment, the closer they are together, the more you can see in a shorter period of time. My advice is to do your research before you get here so that you know exactly what neighborhoods you're going to live in. And if you've got 2 days to be here, and let's say 2 neighborhoods that you're considering, do 1 neighborhood the first day, 1 neighborhood the second day, and then make your decision. I'm subletting an apartment and I want to lease it on my own. I'm afraid I won't qualify. If you're subletting an apartment, you're probably going to have to meet the same qualifications as whoever was renting it and allowed you to move in. If you're afraid that you don't meet the qualifications, you should check out getting a guarantor or possibly getting guarantor insurance. Talk to the landlord or management company about this and see what you can do. Since you already live there and you've been paying the rent, maybe they can bend the rules a little bit in your favor. Do you mind sharing your setup? Sure, it's pretty simple. There's my camera, this is my wireless microphone, and I've got this big light and these 2 lights over here, and my phone. It's a basic minimalist setup that I can pretty much take anywhere. I'm looking at apartments in the city and every building I see has negative reviews on Google and Yelp. How do I trust those reviews and make a decision? You're right. Every building's got negative reviews. Even if they get negative reviews, the places still rent. What you should do is look at the number of negative reviews and then look at the number of overall apartments that are in the building you're looking at. Figure out what percentage of those reviews are negative, and that'll let you know how many people in there are having an experience that's not worth complaining about. Also, you can go to a site like rentcity.co that gives a score for every single building based on how safe the neighborhood is and how many violations the building has. I found a legitimate looking apartment on StreetEasy, but when I was asked to apply for the apartment, the application I was sent is a Word document and it asks for my social security number and my bank account. Is this legitimate? Every company you work with is going to have a different way of having you apply for the apartment. A lot of companies are using online portals right now, but some places still do it the old-fashioned way with a Word document or a PDF. It's probably okay. Just make sure that you ask them to destroy your information at the conclusion of the application process and get their response in writing. I left the city, moved to the suburbs, and bought a car. I like having a car, but I want to move back to the city. Is it worth it to have a car in a neighborhood like the Lower East Side? I'm going to say no. Your insurance is going to be a monthly expense. You might not drive every day, and your vehicle's going to deteriorate over time if you're not using it. Plus, it could get broken into or hit by another car. If you're going to live in the city and you don't need a car to get places, it's an absolute waste of money. Sell it. What books are best to read? I'm 17 and I just want to learn more about real estate. If you want to be a real estate agent, there is only one book I recommend, and that book is called Never Split the Difference. It's about negotiating, and I wish I had read that book earlier in my career. This is a business of working with people. Everyone you work with is going to be different, and the sooner you can learn how to understand what other people are saying and telling you, you're going to be in the best position possible to help them, which as a real estate agent is the only way you're going to get paid in the first place. I'll leave a link to this in the description. Best 15 bucks I've ever spent. Would you recommend getting a broker? Is it absolutely necessary? The last time I worked with an agent, I paid a massive broker fee. The good news about looking for an apartment in 2021 is that pretty much everything is no fee, which means the owner's paying the broker's commission on your behalf. If you see apartments that are advertised where you've got to pay the commission, make sure that those are the best option for you before you sign a lease or start looking at one of them. Can I expect to knock $300 to $400 off the price of an apartment in today's market? That depends on what price the apartment is to begin with. If an apartment's $300 over market, then yes. If an apartment's only $100 over market, probably not. That being said, always do your research and make sure that when you put in an offer for lower rent, you already know what the price of similar apartments in the market are going for. This is going to make the whole process a lot less stressful. What's the strangest thing you've come across in a property you've visited? A number of years ago, there was an apartment for rent in the East Village with a really good price. However, the tenant in the apartment was a conscientious objector, peaceful protester maybe. Anyways, they would let you in to show the apartment whenever you wanted, but they insisted on walking around naked, completely naked. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish other than probably getting back at their landlord for something, but it definitely worked. That place did not rent until they moved out. I found an apartment that I wanted to see, and the broker sent me a client registration form which says I have to pay 15% of the annual rent if I rent that apartment, even though the agent says all the apartments they plan to show me are no fee. What this client registration form does is it's like a promise between you and that agent that if they show you a no-fee apartment, you're gonna rent it through them, not through another company at some other point in the future after they've done the work to show you the property and introduce you to it. It's okay to sign this form. Just make sure that you don't apply for anything that's not listed as no fee and that you have it in writing from this agent before you submit any paperwork that you are not responsible for a 15% commission because the owner pays it for you. Hope you found that interesting. If you've got questions, send me a message on Instagram and then pick one of these apartment tours and I'll see you in the next video.